behind him, and his ankles were shackled. The irons bit into him, but the wounds had scabbed over and had bonded with the shackles so that they seemed to be a part of him now. It was this last detail that had convinced him they were never going to let him go. If they tried to remove those shackles, they'd have to rip them out of his skin. He accepted that they meant to keep him here, wherever this was, for the rest of his life. But he didn't want to die. Even here, in the dark and the silence, he still wanted to live. So he ate their bread and drank their broth, and he sipped at the ladleful of water they gave him twice a day, and he tried not to think about his absent beard. He didn't know how long he'd been there, a month, a year, more. The men came every day in shifts, sometimes one at a time, sometimes 3 or 4 at once. Always men, never a woman. He had long ago decided that he must be in a small room made of stone, no more than 10 feet across and 10 feet deep. The ceiling was low, not even 6 feet, but the shackles prevented him from standing anyway, and so it presented no great hardship for him. Some of the men who came had to stoop as they moved around him. He had learned to recognize the voices of all the men by now. He listened to the way they moved, to the pace of their shoes on the stone. He would know any of them if he met them in the street, even on the darkest of nights. 2 of the men were familiar to him from his life before, when he had been a free man. He was sure of it. Something in their voices, something in the way they walked. They had pursued him, and he had led them on a merry chase. But in the end, he had been careless, and they had captured him before he could finish his grand design, his nasty business. And now they kept him in a box. Sometimes, in the stillness, he found peace. He couldn't tell if his eyes were open or closed. The darkness was absolute. He sat without moving, partially suspended by the chains that held him fast. He was a spider, made helpless in its own web, unable to seek prey. He was part of an old story, a story that spanned many centuries and many cultures. He was Loki, chained in the netherworld, Prometheus on the rock. He was a god, and these men were mortals. They could hurt him, but they had not killed him yet. Perhaps they could not kill him. He was more than a man. He was an idea, and was, therefore, immortal. He heard them coming long before they reached his cell. Their hard-soled shoes struck the cobblestones and packed earth, and their footsteps rang out ahead of them. They stopped nearby, out there somewhere in front of him, and there was the faint, splintery scrape of metal on metal before a door swung open on rusty hinges and they entered. There were 2 of them today. He moved his tongue, tore it free from his teeth. It rasped against the roof of his mouth. He tried to muster some moisture, but there was none. He tried to laugh at the men, but the only sound he could make was a low, dry rumble somewhere behind his sternum. He heard the clunk of the ladle against the inside of a wooden bucket, and then felt a welcome splash of water on his chin as the ladle was pressed against the hood and emptied in the general vicinity of his mouth. He gobbled at the air, at the meagre stream of water, sucking in as much liquid as he could, but felt most of it dribble away. The canvas hood absorbed some of the water, and it spread upward through the fabric against his face. It was wonderfully cool. The ladle was taken away, and there was a long moment of silence. He knew what was coming, and he tensed. His senses were hypervigilant, but he willed his muscles